And we are live, but I've actually created a live stream that is because I was doing a series of videos and I was like, yo, I'm going to be going on vacation tomorrow. I don't have time to record and upload. I'm not even editing and I'm still having not enough time. So I wanted to talk today about, get this at the right height. This is live now, but you guys can see it. I want to talk about vegetable police and what my thoughts. Now, here's the deal. I have been staying quiet for 10 years on this whole like keto and now carnivore, but keto mainly, standard keto and vegan whole conversation. I've just stayed quiet. And back in the Freely days, people would try to get me to debate her and just stupid stuff like that. First of all, it's not me to debate. I don't care. I don't know if this is coming from the fact that I'm in my 50s and I don't give a crap. I just don't care. A lot of you guys know the journey of how I started getting into the ketogenic diet because my mom had a glioblastoma, which is the most deadly form of brain cancer. And now, as time has passed, when I was younger, nobody mentioned a glio. Now it's just, I swear, it's like Oprah giving away free cars. You get a car, you get a glio, you get a glio. It's kind of scary what's happening to us today with all of these autoimmune disorders and cancers and all kind of stuff. Different types of cancers. And I was trying to find any way to stop this cancer from killing her. And I'd heard about the ketogenic diet, but I didn't know much about it. And I thought, I can't do this. But long story short, mom is still here today. Okay? To still tell me how to dress like a lady. Saying. All right. So this is almost 12 years ago. And it's an incredible journey. But today, luckily, the carnivore community has come along and they have come in like, boom! Now I just sit back and watch the stuff going on. So we've got vegetable police, and I've peeped a lot of people's channels. Doesn't matter. Now when it comes to the carnivore community, I think I've seen value in everyone, right? In everybody, even down to the Agenus, to the Sedere, to the Tefanos and the Primal Edge, all of them. I've gotten good value. Oh, Milk Jar, whatever, whomever, whatever. Sean Baker, the Carnivore Conference, I've gotten value from all of them. And I really wish people would look at both dietary measures and sort of like deconstruct what is some good information instead of become indoctrinated into this sort of like you have to do it this way or that way or whatever way, that you have to sort of like research everything yourself. So that's what I did. I'm the average person who was trying to keep my mother from dying. Hence, she's still alive, and here I am today. Specifically the vegetable police, and Bart K sort of went over his blood tests, and he made some good points. And essentially, and also, as much as you guys are like having these thoughts about Sverige, it's not Sverige. If I hear Sverige one more time, I'm going to freak out. Fy fan, alla svenska människor förstår vad jag säger. Fan, Sverige. It's Sverige, which means Sweden, but he's not Swedish. I digress. He is always saying, and I've always said this as well, but I love to hear him say, another person saying this. When you eat a lot of supplementation, what you're finding in your blood is what you just ate, right? If you're having vitamin D supplements. And what is really scary is a woman on my, and I'm going to be speaking in sort of a lengthy time because it's a live stream, so I just talk freely. When you record stuff, you're planning it out and you're like, don't, and then you record again, don't. And everybody does this. Everyone does this. So, watching the vegetable police and Bart Case talking about, if you're taking a lot of vitamin D supplements and you do a blood test, and now you go back to the doctor and like, oh, your vitamin D status is up, but you're still sick. And we're just so indoctrinated, again, I say this word, to believe a certain type of ridiculousness that you actually have to go by symptoms, because these D supplements are so toxic. There was a woman on my Instagram, which is Stephanie Ketogenic. I got a lot of great info there, especially on my stories daily. But there was a woman who inboxed me and said, thank you so much for talking about the toxicity of vitamin D supplements, because my doctor prescribed me vitamin D. She took it for 2 years and developed kidney damage. These things are not to be messed with. This body is its own pharmacy. It knows what to do with food. Most of the time. Some of y'all have leaky gut, but I digress. Typically, it knows what to do, and it knows how to balance your pH, and it knows how to extract the micronutrients, the minerals, and the vitamins out of food and partition it off, or the sun, and utilize it accordingly. When you take supplementation of any sort, it's not dosed out potentially to what your individual DNA might need. So you might raise your E levels to a toxic level, or vitamin A, or where's your vitamin A coming from? Is it coming from organic sources? Is it coming from carrots? Is it coming from synthetic substances? And you have to factor in these things. How's it bound together? How's it chelated? What lab was it at? I can't. Even the fish oil, people, we have to look at the quality of this fish oil, because by the time it gets into your gullet, it's lost a lot of its value. So the vegetable police, sorry to digress, but this is a live stream. This is not pre-recorded. He literally is like, I'm not like carnivore anymore and all this kind of stuff. And I wouldn't even label. If I were him, I would just be like, yo, I'm just trying to do anything I can. And somebody said, I don't know if it was Barkey, or somebody said, I think he's tried so many different things, he's confused. And all of you guys have health issues, for him to have Crohn's and his intestine to sort of fall apart, there are certain things that aren't mentioned that I mention all the friggin' time, you guys. So it's beyond veganism or vegetarianism or plant-based or carnivore or keto, with the frack. It's all the accoutrement on the outside of the plate that you also must think about. So if you're born from a parent vaginally, and you were breastfed, and your mother ate a somewhat healthy, balanced diet, hopefully her microbiome is good and father's sperm is good. So you might have a chance when you're born, but probably the vegetable police didn't. And then like what you eat as you're growing up on a standard American diet exacerbates the already wrecked gut. And we're raised on foods that are so damaging, and we don't think sometimes. We are animals designed to live outside. Plants grow in season. We genetically modify, alter, selectively bred, hybridize all of our plant source foods and fruits and everything. Why is that an argument? That's what we do. All plants have poison, just different varying levels of them. Even in the growth stage of a plant, it's very important to understand when to eat the dang thing that are edible plants. So when you do veganism, I'm like, honey, woo, I gotta look away. You know, when you watch somebody learn how to drop in on a 12-foot or 14-foot ramp with 2 to 3.5 feet of vert for the first time, you gotta look away. You're like, this I can't watch this. This is like accident waiting to happen. And so he developed all of this inflammation of the gut and everything when it comes to sleep, the way he stands, the way he breathes, the way he moves, the way he deals with stress, the EMF toxicity, everything matters. You see this purple here? That's not natural. That's a dye, right? That's poison. There's poison in everything. If you do not have good methylation pathways, if you can't get rid of this freaking toxins, if you develop calcium deposits and your colon is calcified, and there's all these things that you have to consider. Why did someone do a particular diet and do well? And why did another person do it and they did horribly? And these are the varying factors. So I always say when people do a standard keto, or if they do keto carnivore, or if they're still dependent on glucose and do a low carb, but still starch-based sugar diet, you have to look at if you have hypoglycemia, if you have a gut infection, dysbiosis, food sensitivities, histamine intolerance, enough stomach acid. Is your spine straight? Do you have a straight plumb line? Are your shoulders pronated? Is your stomach in a C shape because the upper body doesn't get any circulation? Do you sit at a desk all day long? These things matter. And nobody's talking about it. I don't understand. Like putting all the pieces together. Everybody's got an opinion, including myself. But at least I'm telling people, please, people, go do your research. Now, it seems as though Vegetable Please did, but almost too much. Jumping from one thing to another thing to another thing. I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with that, right? So with my clients, I'm like, okay, we don't know if you have an egg allergy. Not everybody can eat eggs. Not everybody can do A2 raw dairy. I don't know, like he mentioned that. I was like, yo, some people are so dysbiotic that those proteins create an inflammatory response when your gut is weak. Not everybody can do the kefir or the butter or the ghee. You hear everybody else taking these, oh, it healed my gut. Maybe not you. Everyone's different in that way. You have to experiment, which he sort of did, it looked like he did. If you're coming from a vegan world and you're going off of veganism and you're like, maybe those plants that are poisonous, eaten out of season all the time, because you see with oxalates, for example, you can eat them in spring, summer, and then you're going to purge out the oxalates fall, winter. You guys, a lot of poisons we can purge out if we're eating them in season. We're not eating them in season. So it's just like basic 1 + 1 is 2. Yeah. So then he's like looking at blood test results. He's looking at like potassium. Yo, people. Again, what's in the blood is subjective. You have to do several tests, 6 tests in a row. And then you start to see the red thread. Then you start to see the consistency or the inconsistency. It's the same thing with cholesterol numbers. So again, your triglyceride, whatever, your test, whatever. You really should have done your calc score to see how much calcium deposit you have. If you're really scared, go get a freaking CT scan, all right? These cholesterol tests are so subjective. We're still learning. These tests can have value and they can have low value. Like how many people are on thyroid medication, level thyroxine, Synthroid, and it's not working over time? How many people are on metformin because the doctor quickly puts them on metformin to manage their blood sugar when they're insulin resistant or polycystic ovarian syndrome? Check the blood, doctor's okay, you still have all the symptoms, all of them. Being in Thailand, which I've been to, I've traveled a lot, you guys, and trying to get your meat there, honey, if I were to have, like him, if I were in his situation and had Crohn's probably an inflammation here, this part of the large intestine. If I would have been in Thailand, I would have gone home. Like, you don't mess around with experimenting with foods when you don't know where it's coming from. That's a big. You see all of this stuff, and he's like, I'm so tired. All these carnivore people are drinking coffee. We're not supposed to. This is where the keto part comes into carnivore. Like, I don't understand why people don't make that equation. It's the same as the other keto. It's the same. You're trying to drive ketosis so you don't destroy your adrenals, your thyroid, your sex hormones. Hello? Can't just eat a bunch of meat. And people are eating 2 pounds of meat and they're tired on coffee. They're not in ketosis. They make ketones. Sure, you can make ketones. Doesn't mean that your brain wants them. Doesn't know what to do with them. It's used to glucose. And we can convert that protein into glucose. No problem. But then your glycogen is depleted because you're not eating our starches and sugars. You're just eating a bunch of meat and fat. You're not eating enough fat to generate and become highly adapted, which is trying to get your brain more to recognize ketones as a primary source and glucose as a lesser source, right? Tip the scale. You're always going to produce glucose, eating no starches or sugars through gluconeogenesis. So that is not the issue. The issue is using your ketones. People are still using urine strips like this is like 1942. We're in like 2019. Come on, people. You need a glucometer. And at the most, you must track your symptoms. You must. If you don't track your symptoms, this is useless. It's a waste of time. If you're tired, something's wrong. Okay, it's not normal to be tired. It's not. I'm in my 50s and what? I've got some energy. That's what's up. And I work real hard on it because my first year of keto, I was crashing in the afternoon because I was eating a ton of fat. I wasn't minding the kind of fat. Like, okay, what's going on here with a little scab from a little bike accident? It's coming off in the talk, but it's live. You just can't see it. We have to understand why we're tired. It could be because you're asleep, didn't sleep well, hypoglycemia in the middle of the night, adrenal insufficiencies where your cortisol's inverted, cortisol's high at night and low in the morning. Blood sugar dysregulation from way before even like being on standard American diet, and your body doesn't know how to regulate the blood sugar, doesn't know how to be in a homeostatic balance. It doesn't know how to do insulin and glucagon and balance it. There's a lot of varying factors, and your lifestyle. I'm sorry, you guys, like gut infections, stress, gut infections grow, parasites freak out. Candida loves when you're upset. Candida will make your tongue white, your butt itchy, around the nails, everything. Make your brain foggy, make you tired. And people keep doing things like fasting and, you're fasting and you're doing this, you're doing that, and you're doing all these types of things. And you're not looking at if you can handle it. And I always say, if you're going to fast, do nothing. Because if you are so fracked up, if your adrenals are fracked, your thyroid's fracked, and then you're just going to eat one meal a day and fast, where's the car going to get the gasoline? I'm sorry, you have to put food in it. Because that's going to create a whole cascade of a domino effect of what the body is supposed to do when it's working. Gasoline in car gives you energy. Yeah? Don't put gas in the car. No energy. On a ketogenic diet, you can have sustained energy, but it's not like, oh, I'm just fasting 1 meal a day and I can just go do a million things and I always have the most maximized energy. No, body has a limit. So when you're looking at the vegetable police, the things that I see are eating your meats in a country where it's not well sourced, not getting your fats high enough, not knowing anything about ketosis, not just ketosis, because that's an overused term, but being fully adapted, which takes like a year for some people. 3-month chunks. You have leaky gut. You have holes in your gut wall. So how are you going to get your D and your this and all of these nutrients that you need to heal the body? It's not going to present on blood tests because you have leaky gut, brah. And you must address the gut. You try to use carnivore to heal the gut, but there's all those accoutrements are on the outside of the plate that also are a factor. Like, do you have hypoglycemia before doing this stuff? Because if you're fasting, it's going to get worse. Do you have thyroid conditions? It's going to get worse. Muscle, you're not going to gain any muscle if you're not using ketones. You can make them and excrete them in the toilet. Did you up your fat? If you up your fat, did your stool float? Was it yellow? Was it greasy? Do you have foamy pee? All those things matter. Could you adapt and have all those things be perfect? There are people that just don't adapt for various reasons. Sometimes it's hard to find what it is, right? Because we are damaged individuals. Antibiotics from years ago, we don't know. The dysbiotic gut, where we're not sure. It's hard to test all the strains of bacteria because there's so much of it. So this is my message to the vegetable police. Like everybody, and it's like I'm kind of loosey-goosey talking because I don't want to tell somebody what to do. I think they just got to go and keep experimenting and make their own decision. If they want to go back to veganism, that's their choice. If they want to eat plants and protein, that's their choice. If they want to go carnivore, that's their choice. It doesn't really matter. And I don't like this carnivore community, and I've said this myself, oh, you're not doing it right. But the reality is, when you tell someone they're not doing it right, it's because A, you don't have time to break down and explain all the variables of what you could be doing wrong, because there's a million people always like, like, I'm doing carnivore, my blood sugar's high. Are you on your period? Well, are you going through the ovulation stage? Oh yeah, I am. Well, check it next month and see if you have the same response around the same days. Oh, I do. It's hard to know what it is. If you're someone like me, constantly working with people over the years, you start to, okay, they put these groups, this makes sense and this makes sense. And you start to see consistencies or inconsistencies. So my message to the vegetable police is, if you're eating your plants out of season, you're not able to purge out the anti-nutrients, that might be a varying factor. You're not giving yourself a long, and then you go on a break and then you're finding protein that you might now have developed in histamine response to. So you feel like crap eating some animal parts. So you have to know, you have to rotate your food. Because if you're not rotating your food, that histamine can build up and make you feel horrible. No joke, once you develop leaky gut, the body will just start to attack many things that you eat. Some people can't do pork, so they have to do beef. Some people can't do beef, so they do pork. Most people who've got leaky gut and histamine intolerance so bad cannot do any eggs. They can't do any butter. So there's a lot of experimentation that you have to do if you're going to do a carnivore diet, or if you're going to do a keto diet, or if you're going to do whatever diet, I don't care what the frack it is. You have to experiment, and you have to do like mono food once a week and test. I'm going to eat rice all day long and nothing else. Oh, I feel like terrible. I feel terrible. I'm going to eat eggs all day. Ugh. I'm going to eat beef. Wow, I feel really, really good, but I feel tired. Why are you tired? You have to slam yourself with fat. What kind of fat? You have to rotate every 3 or 4 days. Once you figure out what the culprit is, what food is fracking you up, you have like a minor, and this is for veganism as well, minor to severe. So of course, you got to be careful. Like even with oxalates, you can't just quit them. You have a freaking die off and freak out. So you go from a high oxalate food like a spinach, if you have an oxalate buildup, to a low oxalate food like cauliflower. Then you go off automatically. It's the same thing with having sensitivities to certain meats or foods or whatever. You have to rotate, you have to experiment, you have to take 1 day a week to experiment what thing is fracking you up. You got to list, and he never spoke about this. Okay, I did the 1 to 10. This is the worst. This is the least worst. Chart it all out, because that would be really great to see for everybody who's watching his journey, because there's a lot of stuff he's not telling you. There's stuff I don't tell you. All of us people on the internet aren't saying everything all the time. We're not exposing everything. So from one YouTuber to another, I know that he's not saying everything. Therefore, it's very difficult to judge everything. But by the way was it Casey? The way you've made it looks like you've gotten everybody trying to tell you what to do, because everything looks so brat. So I try to make it simple. You have to experiment. Then nobody else knows. Nobody else knows what you're really going through. People don't understand the IBS, diverticulitis, and ulcers any type of colitis, any type of Crohn's. Nobody knows how horrible that is. I mean, the people who don't have it don't know. So they're sitting there telling you like you don't know, like it's all fake. It's not fake, people. This stuff is real. And the skin reactions, like the candida, is real, Brad. It's real. And if you have a histamine intolerance, then everything's exacerbated to the highest level of skin. It's all going to appear on your skin. You have to find the foods, but I don't think you've ever found them. I don't think you sat and charted it all out. I think you did, but I don't think you didn't. I don't think you rotated. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you went like, I need to get out of Thailand now, because all of that experimentation that you did in Thailand kind of doesn't count. It comes back to where you know you can get your food. If you're going to a farm, if you're going to freaking a supermarket with a bunch of junk injected in poorly kept animals, non-pastured animals, you'll at least know where your food is coming from. And that's very, 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 very important when you're trying to try something as different, because it's not extreme. Carnism is not extreme. It's quite normal. It's quite natural. But in a world coming from a bunch of processed foods, when did foods in a package become normal? And then eating real food is so weird. Like, when did that happen? I don't understand. It behooves me how we are so brainwashed. So now nobody knows what to do. And I know because I've been working with thousands of people over the years. I know this to be a fact. I know how to talk to people. I know it because I just constantly do consultations over and over and over again. And just through osmosis and being an autodidact, you freaking learn. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. I used to have cheese on my website. I used to promote those nuts. I used to eat them myself. I was having issues. Other people have issues. Lots of people have ashy skin. Tons of people have issues, and you take it out and the issues go down. Okay, you don't need to be a rocket scientist or PhD to figure out the most basic of basic. Basic, test monofoods. Low to high, this is high reactive, this is low reactive. Then cut out the stuff that's the worst and rotate in and out the stuff that's mild. And these are the things that I did not see on his freaking channel at all through all those videos. And everybody's like, it's kind of cringy. And it's just sad. I get a lot of people like him. I had a consultation today with a woman who's 5'5", weighs 102 or 3 pounds. Okay? That is so tiny. And I had her stand up, and I literally, because I'm pretty honest, I go, it looks like skinny fat. Your body fat percentage looks up. She goes, well, I'm not very fat here. And I said, grab here, pinch and pull. And she just grabbed like this much and pulled. And then I stood up and grabbed and pulled, and I said, you see the difference? Okay? See that? Because she was so tiny, she thought she was so slim. So the thing is, she's got gut issues. She's bloated all the time. She's exhausted, almost to the point where I'm worried that she has Addison's disorder. Like I think that her cortisol is so inverted. So I'm like, okay, if we go carnivore, you have to really change everything. How fast you chew your food, rotate your meats. Like, you really have to get to bed early, because that's when your body's going to repair. We're not going to do one meal a day. So if we do add more food because you're not eating enough, we have to have you sit there for freaking 45 minutes to chew it and digest it. Because if you slam that down on low stomach acid because you came from a plant-based world, you don't have enough enzymes, enzyme production, and the HCl to be able to digest the food. All of these things matter. And I know there's things that I'm missing, and I'll probably do a part 2. But I thought I'd do a really, not quick, this is not quick. I thought I would just do a live stream, talk freely, don't be antiquated, don't do any cuts, just boom, just talk live. Because when you're talking live, you can't stop and start again, because I'd be doing that all day long. And that is the reason why there's not 100% structure in this, but it's a message to vegetable police. Be careful with blood test results. They're always going to be subjective. The only thing that you can do is do 6 tests in a row. That's all you can do. You can't do one. And then if you're taking a bunch of supplements, be very careful, because when man gets his dirty freaking hands on anything we stick in our mouth, when it compromises and manipulates the structure, we're putting ourselves at risk. We didn't eat. It's like being in a car, sitting on the driver's side, and you're not driving the car. Like, somebody's driving, you have to trust them. But then you got to know who the person is who's driving 100 miles an hour. all those tests that you read off are just like, yeah, your kidney function, come on. If you're eating a bunch of plant source foods and you have a bunch of oxalates, if you don't go and check to see and don't do some type of MRI or go do a kidney, I forgot what it's called, it's 3 letters, I can't remember the name of it, but you've got to go and test your kidney function. You've already done that. If you're worried about something else, go get a freaking MRI, CT scan. But remember, you're coming from a very high oxalate reality, and then you went to eating protein with not a ketogenic, like moderate to low, right? That's how you deal with kidney disease. Moderate to low. And no muscle meat. Your fat must be very high. And I believe that you didn't do that consistently or at all. Now I gotta go. I hope this helps. I hope this helps with everybody else trying to do a keto carnivore version. You must have your fats up high. You may not drive ketosis. Don't believe the urine strips. You must do a blood glucometer and test your blood sugar and your ketones consistently. You also must go to bed early. You also have to learn how to diaphragmatic breathe. You got to use blue blockers. You can't have a lot of light in your eyes. You have to connect to the circadian rhythm. You have to know your pre-existing issues before. You have to know it. You have to chart it. You can't go from a 0 to 100. You just can't go from high oxalate to no oxalate. Some people have a horrible die-off symptom, and that might be the reason why your skin is still freaking out. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But at least there's another person having commentary, because I think this is good for everyone to know. No, you should not be drinking this toxic coffee on carnivore when you're trying to deal with your histamine intolerance, where you have a lack of diamine oxidase. You don't produce enough of the enzyme to break down the histamine, and that makes you feel like crap. You might have leaky gut. You might have a gallbladder issue from this whole digestive tract. All this whole system must be clean running. You just can't pound any food, not know where it's coming from. I don't even care if it's from an animal. You must know, and you must chew your food slowly like frack, bruh. Your stomach acids are low. Pathogens are growing out of control. You're going to feel like crap. Carnivore is next level. I have a lot of people on my keto course page. So to sign up for that, you can go to stephanieperson.com. And yes, I'm using my platform to not only educate, but to promote what I'm doing. But it's great. It's a great group where I'm able to work with hundreds of people at once, at one time. Because even though I've done consultations over the years into the thousands, being able to work in a course group with hundreds of people at once, and we're all going to experiment this at once. All right, let's come back with all the data. It's very fascinating to be able to have that amazing ability to learn so quickly on what happens to a lot of people doing something similar, and finding out where similar issues are happening, like blood sugar going high on carnivore, where it might be the cycle, which is gnarly on women's bodies. There's not enough women talking about this stuff, and not from a more like understanding or more educated understanding of how people, with all of the issues that people have, right? Down to the Crohn's and the fibromyalgia and the gut inflammation and the menstrual cycles and the freaking, endometriosis and the fibroids, and there's so many issues that you guys have, down to the hypoglycemia, which a lot of you guys have hypoglycemia. So these are the things to Casey. He needs to do whatever he wants to do. But if he's got information more thrown at him from just a little bit more, like, it's not just the food that you're eating, Casey, it's everything. It's like fasting and not eating and then exercising and then being in a country where you don't know where your food's sourced by. Because if you are having any type of thyroid or inverted cortisol, adrenal insufficiency, and your blood sugar's like freaking bananas high, and then you start fasting, that could create more issues, exacerbate the issues with your hormones. And if you're having a die-off and you're eating a lot of things with anti-nutrients, and we forget that all plants have poison, just different varying levels. Now I gotta really shut up and go. Hope this helps everybody watching. Don't always believe blood tests. Be very careful. Supplements will just show what's in the blood, which makes it very, very subjective. If you're still exhibiting symptoms, you need to think again, am I hemorrhaging everything into the toilet? Maybe that's why you're feeling like crap. And if you have leaky gut, and you're not eating well sources of D, and you're not getting enough sun, because I've been to Thailand. Yo, people brown as me, they got like, y'all, like, yo, Eurocentricity is really messed up dark people, because they don't want to get sun over there. They're not like, oh my God, I'm going to get like skin cancer. They don't want to get dark. So everybody, that's how he could be in Thailand and in any Asian country, and not get, unless you're in southern Thailand, then they dark. But that's migrational patterns out of Africa. But if you're in Thailand and go to the northern parts, then and you see people constantly covered up. So it's easy to cover up when you're in Asia. Nobody's gonna blink if you wear a long sleeve shirt. It's just the rest of us in the first world economy that's like, oh my God, it's like vacation. Why don't you get a nice tan? So yeah, that's how he could be deficient in D, not getting enough sun and not enough dietary D, and then the right types of dietary D. And organ meats, where were the organ meats, and what kind of organ meats did he know? Like kidneys, great for diamine oxidase. If you have the dry eyes, you might be able to have a vitamin A deficiency. And liver is so important, but if you don't get the right kind of liver and from healthy animals, right? Frank Tufano just said that. I've been saying it. Must come from healthy animals, or you're going to have unhealthy stuff in you. And I've been all over the world. You don't know where the food comes from sometimes. You heard that it comes here, but you don't know. Here you can literally, I can get in my car and drive to a farm where I can get my liver. That's not going to happen over there. Now for the 5th time, now I gotta go. So hopefully you guys will add some commentary. Tell me what you think about Casey. As you can tell in this live stream, I did not talk about the ills and wrongs of veganism, and I did not celebrate, oh my God, everybody's got to do keto, omnivore, and eat their cruciferous vegetables, or everybody's got to do carnivore. It's not about that. It's not even like everybody's different, because we're so similar, to be honest. It's what your mental capacity can handle. You know, I had to tell a woman this morning who has serious dysbiotic gut, hardcore SIBO, super exhausted all the time, who wants to try carnivore, but she wants to do she wants to do eggs and butter. And I was like, baby cakes, I think you might be sensitive to the proteins in the butter and the ghee and the yolks and the whites. How are you going to do carnivore if you can't eat those foods? You know, if you do have a histamine reaction to these high histamine foods, then you're not going to get better doing carnivore. You're just going to feel tired. So everything matters. And so I'm just trying to put out like other parts that people might not consider, why Casey did so poorly while anyone else has done poorly on standard keto, of eating a bunch of cheese, nuts, drinking coffee, not knowing their existing health, not understanding blood tests, and not understanding that you need to take mini tests. Thyroid, with people just testing the TSH, is very subjective, that you have to do a full thyroid panel many times, 6 times, to even hit it remotely correct. That's how we are still evolving in the medical world. Like, doctors are not God's people. So just because you have an education, and I hear people contradict themselves, go to a doctor, go to somebody who knows, like, you know, and you go to a doctor. How many people you go to a doctor and they're like, they don't understand. They don't learn about nutrition. The ones who are dietitians or nutritionists learn about the food pyramid that makes us all sick. So we are all in this sort of like quagmire of, you just have to take the best information, experiment like you did, Casey. But I feel that possibly you didn't rotate enough, you didn't do monofoods enough, but I don't know if you did, because if you did, you didn't post it on the videos that you're presenting, and that's what everybody is judging. I hope that helps everyone. I need to drink water. And also, sodium potassium balance is another thing that I don't think he got right. Like, if you sweating in Thailand, and you sweating, and you're not eating enough meats that have potassium, and you're not doing any potassium from plants, I work with people, so sorry the rest of you carnivore people that think that potassium, heart palpitations from the lack of potassium is not a thing. It's a thing with people who do carnivore. It's a thing. And if you weren't taking magnesium, either like Epsom salt or transdermal magnesium or oral, because our soil is depleted, it's the only thing that I really suggest that you do on a carnivore or keto carnivore or omnivore. It doesn't matter. And if you're not doing that, not having the right electrolytes will make almost anything impossible to try. Like, you're never going to feel good. Never. Everything's going to misfire in the body. Everything. You're a mess. Hot mess. And if you have thyroid issues, you have to get all of the nutrients that will help the thyroid. That's going to be liver and some brain. It's the way it is. You know? Can't do just a bunch of friggin' egg whites and some cheese, which cheese is garbage. It's just garbage. There's a lot of casein in it. If you have any type of itis, why are you eating cheese? I think you figured that one out, right? Figured it out? Don't eat it again, right? There's a difference between goat cheese and milk cheese. So just get rid of the cheese. That's what I'm saying. The sheep. StephaniPerson.com. Everything's changing soon. I finally found somebody to actually film me and do day in the lives. Everybody wants to see me do day in the lives, workouts, all that stuff. You guys know I'm almost 52, been doing keto for almost 12 years. This is the mother second business. Full natty, sex hormones on point, fleet correct. And I haven't cheated once. I haven't had any carbs, wine, rice, nothing in all these years. Nothing over 20 net carbs. And now I'm all full carnivore. So now it's just straight up lots of fat, tons of organ meats, tons. Love. Oh, liver has saved my life.